Question. Master, may I leave the householder's life? Answer from the Master. There wouldn't be too many with you, and there won't be too few without you. Wake up from this dream. Do we live in the world only in order to pursue meaningless things? No. Then what are we living for? Actually, our sole purpose on earth is to wake up from this dream we are in. Don't dream on within a dream, lingering on in your dream, not willing to let it go. You should awaken from it. Not only should you awaken yourself, but you should help everyone else wake from their dreams as well. After you wake up, you will no longer be so upside down. Before you awaken from your dream, if someone were to tell you, hey, do you know you're living in a dream? No matter how much wealth you have, no matter what high official post you may have gained, or how successful your career has been, it's all happened within a dream. You would certainly not believe that person. But just wait until you wake up from your dream, and then you will know, originally it was just a dream. What do I mean, living in a dream? If you weren't living in a dream, then why have you forgotten everything about the past? Why can't you foresee events of the future? Why can't you make the present remain? You do not have a grasp on any of these things. Tell me, what in this world is ultimately yours? Somebody says, well, my body belongs to me. Well, if your body really belongs to you, can you keep your eyes from becoming hazy? Can you stop your ears from growing deaf? Can you keep your teeth from falling out? You say, I can take care of all that, no problem. If my eyes grow dim, I put on a pair of contact lenses and then I'll be able to see. But that is borrowing from external conditions. They are not your own. If my ears grow deaf, I can use a hearing aid. That's also borrowing from external conditions and not using your own resources. If my teeth fall out, I can put on dentures. That is also borrowing from external conditions. None of those things belong to you. Only people who are spineless borrow from external conditions. People with backbones stand on their own 2 feet. They try their best without cease, and they do not rely on outer conditions. If this body really belongs to you, you will be able to tell your hair not to turn white, tell your feet not to hurt, tell your head not to ache, tell your body not to get sick. Only that can be counted as having some control. But since you are not in control, you should realize that the body is just a false combination of the 4 elements, earth, water, fire, and wind. If it's all false anyway, why should you become so upside down because of it? Even if you become so upside down over it, in what way will it repay you? Tell me. Therefore, we in this world should put down all of our attachments, put down the false, take up the true. Only then will our lives have some meaning to them. Do not dream on within a dream, taking your dream as real and not waking up from it. The Dharma-selecting I is essential. Students of the Buddha Dharma must have the Dharma-selecting I so they can recognize right dharmas from wrong dharmas, black dharmas from white dharmas, good dharmas from bad dharmas. Be sure you never take right as wrong and wrong as right, or black as white and white as black, or good as bad and bad as good. That's all upside down. If you want to recognize these dharmas, you must certainly have the Dharma-selecting I. First of all, cultivators must not have the mark of self. If we have the mark of self, all kinds of obstacles will arise, and we will have no wisdom. Once there is a mark of self, selfish thoughts arise, followed by thoughts of benefiting the self and thoughts of seeking and greed. If people do not obtain what they seek and crave, contentious thoughts arise, and they struggle with others to see who is stronger. If we must be rid of the mark of self, then we must inquire into what the self is. Who am I? Ponder and investigate. Who is mindful of the Buddha? The question who isn't meant to be recited. It's of no use if you keep reciting it. You must investigate it. Investigation can be compared to drilling a hole. When you drill all the way through, you will thoroughly understand. If in any given moment we don't understand, then in that moment we must investigate. For every moment we don't understand, in every one of those moments we must investigate. Investigating doesn't mean guessing. Some people make it a guessing game. Well, I'm mindful of the Buddha. You're mindful of the Buddha. And he's mindful of the Buddha too. So who's mindful of the Buddha? They may keep guessing, but they won't get the answer. Rather, you must search for the who. The word who is the Vadra king-jeweled sword, the sword of wisdom. You must use the wisdom sword to cut through all other idle thoughts, and then wisdom will spontaneously appear. If you don't understand how to investigate Chan, then you may think that the more you recite who, the better. You treat it like reciting the Buddha's name, but that's a mistake. Continually chanting who isn't the way it's done. Ideally, you stretch out the sound and keep it going for hours or even for 84,000 aeons without a break. Then you're really investigating Chan. Why do we want to investigate who is mindful of the Buddha? The word who is basically superfluous, but we are like monkeys, always looking around for something to do. If there is the word who acting as a shield, then it can combat all those idle thoughts so they disappear. This method uses poison to fight poison. To investigate Chan simply means to diligently wipe the mirror of the mind clean. Only when we are free of all random thoughts are we diligently wiping it clean at all times. We want to wipe it clean so it won't get dusty. This is the Dharma door of sweeping away all dharmas and separating from all marks. If people don't avail themselves of the Dharma-selecting eye, they won't recognize the true Dharma. Not recognizing what's true, they won't know how to investigate. Not knowing how to investigate, they end up just wasting their effort, or worse. Not recognizing the proper Dharma, people may pursue deviant Dharmas. That's why the Dharma-selecting eye is so important. No backsliding. Cultivation is like paddling upstream. If you don't go forward, you drift back. If you are swimming upstream and you don't use effort, you won't get anywhere. You may even drown. Here, we are all swimming. Everyone should apply effort. Don't retreat. Why? Cultivators must concentrate their minds and not be influenced by external states. In the investigation of Chan, you should remember the principle of the Vadra Sutra. Produce the mind which dwells nowhere. The great master, the sixth patriarch, was enlightened to this principle. Countless people have heard and recited this sentence, but have any of them become enlightened? When I explained the Vajra Sutra, I said, the sutra is still around, but who has become enlightened? The sixth patriarch was an illiterate woodcutter who chopped wood in the mountains every day, but he was enlightened as soon as he heard this sentence. Because the sixth patriarch had cultivated diligently for many lives in many past aeons, he became enlightened as soon as he heard the Vadra Sutra. Why is it that most of us listen to sutras for so long and still don't become enlightened? That happens to those who didn't cultivate in the past, who only wanted to watch movies, watch TV, hold parties, eat, drink, and be merry, and who never studied any sutras. Another verse. The tune of birthlessness. Upon first hearing the tune of birthlessness, initially listening to the song of deathlessness, I realized that the Dharma was just that way all along, neither too much nor too little. Hang birth and death from your eyebrows. You must suspend the 3 words, birth and death, right between your eyebrows and forget that you haven't slept long enough. Don't enter the sleeping samadhi right there on the meditation bench, or else success in Chan will forever evade you. In this meditation session, we must renounce death and forget about life. We must truly and earnestly work hard at meditation. Make a determined resolve to get your rightful share of results from your work. Don't simply follow the crowd, sitting when you see others sitting, walking when your neighbors do, and sleeping when you see others sleeping. That kind of practice isn't effective. It only wastes your time and won't bring you any benefits. In my younger years, I participated in several Chan sessions in a variety of places, but never once was I hit by the hall monitor's stick. Why not? Because I never slept during the entire session. I sat in meditation during the day, and I also meditated through the night. I sat in the Chan hall 24 hours a day. The word rest and sleep were not part of my vocabulary. Without wasting a single moment, I worked relentlessly at my investigation. I continually applied my effort to it. All of you have abundant and deep good roots. You are all clever and wise. You should give this matter serious consideration and not be casual in the least. In this year's Chan session, there has to be someone who attains enlightenment. Once the session begins, you must stay until the end. You cannot withdraw early. According to the rules of the Chan Hall, you've already said goodbye to birth and death. Even if someone dies during the session, we can only toss his corpse under the bench. No one is allowed to remove the corpse from the hall. And if nobody dies, then even less can you quit and skip out as you please. We've set up a life and death threshold at the Chan Hall door. If you don't live, then you'll die. If you don't die, then you'll live. If we cannot renounce death, then we won't experience real life. If we cannot renounce what's false, we'll never accomplish anything true. After a while, practice will come naturally. If you're just beginning to cultivate, it's easy to get lazy. People need to spur themselves on in order to get going and keep going. If you just do what you feel like doing and you don't discipline yourself, it's easy to fall into a pattern of advancing one step and retreating two. So there's a saying, in the beginning, practice feels forced. After a while, it comes naturally. When you first start out, you have to force yourself to do it. But after you've practiced for a while, you get better at it, and it comes more easily and naturally for you. At that time, when you're walking, you're not aware of it. When you're sitting, you're not aware of it. When you're standing, you don't realize you're standing. When you're reclining, you don't know you're lying down. This is because you've gained freedom to do whatever you want in every respect. You're no longer hindered. When this happens, no matter what you do, you'll always be cultivating, whether coming or going. Then even if you're talking to people or hosting guests, no matter what you're doing, you'll still be working at your cultivation. That will happen at the point when everything comes together for you. So in cultivation, you must bear bitterness. I always say everything's okay. You can say that everything's okay, but it's not really easy to be that way. It's one thing to talk about it. It's another to experience it. Cultivation is not always easy. At times you have to force yourself. Things come up that you can't really see through, and you have to gather in all your energy to put things down, to let things go. That's not easy at all. Sometimes it's very, very difficult. In saying, it's okay, sometimes you may think, well, everything's okay, and it will be okay for a while in a certain respect, but then something else will come up that is not okay. And then, just when you think you've got that one worked out and it's okay, something else comes up that is very much not okay. So it's very easy to say everything's okay, but it's very hard to be that way. When you cultivate, you have to be prepared to do so, bit by bit. When you do your work, you have to do that, bit by bit, as well. A Vadra, indestructible body. What is our purpose in the Chan Hall? We are smelting and forging our Vadra indestructible body. Once our body is made of Vadra and is indestructible, then we won't be aware of pain, suffering, or any discomfort. If we fear both pain and suffering, then we certainly can't achieve a Vadra body. This Vadra indestructible body comes about through tempering and perfecting our skill. Enduring that tempering process is our current work. We're forging our bodies to make them extremely durable and tough, so they'll never go bad. As soon as you hear this, you may be thinking, well, I'm not cultivating for the sake of this stinking skin bag. Where is the sense in refining this thing so it will not go bad? Right you are. There's a lot to what you say. However, the Vadra indestructible body I am talking about is not the stinking skin bag that you are referring to. What is it then? It is the Vadra indestructible self-nature. It is the Vadra indestructible body of your Dharma body and your wisdom life. It is the purity at the source of your self-nature. That's the Vadra indestructible body I'm referring to. Make a clean sweep. The topic, who is mindful of the Buddha, is like a broom used for sweeping a room. Sweep a bit and things get a little cleaner. Sweep a bit more and things get a bit more clean. Each time you contemplate who, many false thoughts are eradicated. If you contemplate who twice, the amount of false thinking decreases even more. The process of contemplating who sweeps the false thoughts away and leaves us clean. You say, I want to try some other method. There isn't any better method. This is the very best method. If you recite mantras or are mindful of the Buddha, then those are methods for counteracting your false thoughts. If you can use them, then those kinds of false thoughts can lead to the truth. But if you can't use them, then those kinds of false thoughts turn into falseness. If you can use the Dharma, if you can develop your skill, then it is true, true, true. All of it is true. If you aren't able to develop your skill, then it is false, false, false. All of it turns into falseness. So it remains to be seen to what level you are able to develop your skill. If you always hold aloft the regal, jeweled Vadra sword to illuminate everything that is false and empty, then what is empty and false will vanish. It will disappear. Time passes in the blink of an eye, and those who have had some response from their work should not be pleased with themselves. Those who haven't had any response should not be distressed. You should continue to work hard. You now know the method used in investigating Chan meditation. So you can continue to work at your cultivation even at home. Wherever you are And whatever you are doing, you can investigate this meditation topic until you awaken to its meaning. As long as you maintain the investigation, it is for certain that one day you will become enlightened. By being single-minded in your work, you will be successful. Question: why shouldn't cultivators be emotional? Answer by the Master: emotions represent selfishness. If we let the 7 emotions control us, then we are being selfish and are straying from the path to Buddhahood. The path to Buddhahood is about being altruistic and impartial. The Chan School, an essay by Master Hua. The Chan school is the leader among the 5 great schools of Buddhism in that it transmits the Buddha's mind seal, pointing directly to the mind so that one sees the nature and becomes a Buddha. When Patriarch Bodhidharma came from India, he widely propagated this method. At that time, the practitioners of Buddhism were still very enamored with literary prajna, exerting their efforts in composition and phrasing, vying to outdo one another. Even in lecturing sutras, they argued over long and short points, and in speaking dharma, they would praise themselves and deprecate others. Different sects were set up, and to do battle with words was the mode of the times. Some resorted to individualism, and in an attempt to be unique, they set up theories that were distinctly different from the mainstream and perfected the art of unobstructed and clever debate. People wrote books and set up doctrines, disparaging others while advertising themselves. In this way, they forsook the root and ran after the branches, and the theories of the teaching school flourished widely. Everybody had a different opinion, and one was at a loss as to which one to follow. One stood perplexed at the crossroad, not knowing which way to turn. Gazing out at the vast ocean of different teachings, one heaved a big sigh. In light of such circumstances, the first Patriarch Bodhidharma made amendments for such biased teachings and patched up the flaws. His compassionate instructions were apart from speech. His teachings were not imparted through words. He taught that this mind of ours is just the Buddha, that the precious pearl hidden within our robe is not something gotten outside. One only needs to concentrate one's energy and refine the mind to a single focus, and in an instant one will open profuse enlightenment. At that time, the outer and inner aspects of all things, whether subtle or gross, are completely penetrated without remainder, and the great functioning of the entire substance of our minds is completely made clear. One opens vast and ultimate enlightenment, returns to the source, and plumbs the origin. At that point, one can appreciate the subtlety behind this interchange. The golden-hued ascetic broke out in a smile. Originally, it was like this. This method is one in which the mind seals the mind, transmitted outside the teachings. One crosses over one's self-nature, and after one has made one's way across the river, one leaves the raft behind. How can there be anything else but this? Question: Great Master, let me first ask you, how come you became a monk? Answer by the Master: I was probably meant to become a monk. The middle way. When we investigate Chan, we must fix our attention on what we are doing. At all times, we should return the light and reflect within. Don't be too tense and don't be too slack. It's said, wound too tight, things break. Left too loose, things get slack. Being neither too tense nor too lax is the way to succeed. Being neither too tense nor too lax is the middle way. Walking, standing, sitting, and lying down, don't be apart from this. Once you leave this, you will go amiss. And so what is this? It's the ultimate meaning of the middle way. In investigating Chan meditation, we must maintain a balance and not go overboard. Don't go too far, and don't fail to go far enough. If we go too far, or not far enough, we are not holding to the middle way. If we don't fall into the two extremes of emptiness and existence, then we are abiding in the middle way. It's said the middle way is neither emptiness nor existence. It is true emptiness and wonderful existence. Do not be attached to true emptiness, and do not be obstructed by wonderful existence, for true emptiness and wonderful existence cannot be grasped or renounced. You cannot take hold of them or let go of them. That's the state of true emptiness and wonderful existence. In developing our skill, we need to finish what we start. That's the only way to accomplish anything. Carry it through from beginning to end is a wise idiom. We shouldn't retreat in the face of difficulty or give up halfway there, sunning something for one day and then freezing it for 10. People without backbone act like that. The ancients said in cultivation, don't worry about going slowly. Just be afraid of standing still. Those who apply effort in cultivating the way must have patience. No matter how hard the going gets, we must patiently forbear. With patience, we can reach the other shore. When we join a Chan session, we should not be afraid of hardship. It's said when bitterness ends, sweetness comes. If we don't start at the very bottom, we can't reach the top. Remember that a 10,000-foot skyscraper is built from the ground up. It isn't built in midair. Therefore, Chan cultivators must start with the basics, the first of which is to get rid of idle thinking. If you can stop your idle thoughts, then at that point the moon appears in the waters of a pure heart. No clouds obscure the sky of a calm mind. When our minds are at peace, all problems go away. When our minds are still, the myriad things are in harmony. As it is said, true wealth is stopping the mind and cutting off thought. True fields of blessings are devoid of all selfish desires. We investigate Chan in order to get rid of the false and keep the true. The process of Chan is like panning for gold. Searching for gold dust in the sand is a difficult task, but someone who wants to find gold has to be particularly patient in searching the sand. Do you want to realize your inherent Buddha nature? Do you want to understand your mind and see your nature? Then you must patiently cultivate, study, and investigate, and when enough time has passed, you will suddenly penetrate and enlighten to the fact that it is originally this way. When our investigation of Chan is progressing well, we need not meddle in other people's business. Each of us should concentrate on the topic, who is mindful of the Buddha? No matter what, we have to find out who it is. When we find the answer, then things will stop. When the intensity of our efforts reaches a peak, good news will arrive. And the final verse, no words at all. Your verbal expressions are false. Your excuses are too many. Value your energy. You too can become a Buddha. During this dream, stay silent. Have not the slightest thought. Awake to know that there never were any words at all.